Channel News Asia.
Well, moving on now to something else. Well, we're constantly looking at new ways to grow our money, and there's traditional insurance schemes, a fixed deposit, stocks and shares, and property investments.
And another investment tool that has been around for some time now is land banking. Now, it was not too popular before because land banking was largely an investment only open to the super rich.
Well, the amateur land banking process is really simple. Buy land, wait till the land price goes up, and then sell it. Now, this investment tool has now been made more accessible and affordable to the general public like you and I.
And according to land investor Profitable Plot, with as little as $10,000 now everyone can profit generously from land plot sport in the United Kingdom. So how does it work and what are the possible risks involved? Well, let's pose these questions to our guest this morning, John Andrew Nordham, Group Operations Director at Profitable Plot Singapore. Good morning, Andy. Thanks for joining us.
Morning.
So tell us, I mean, we're all keen to make some money. Everyone's excited to hear that. But what we understand is that the company acquires the land, subdivides it into smaller plots, and then individuals can buy those smaller plots. Am I right in saying that?
That's right. We buy a large site, divide it into small pieces that make it affordable to the average investor. And the value comes from us driving that land forward to achieve planning permission.
How large are those sites that you buy, and what kind of land do you buy?
It varies from place to place. Depends on the requirements in the local area. If one local town has got a big shortage of housing, we may buy a bigger site. We may buy a smaller site. We've bought sites as small as 2 acres. We've bought sites as large as 120 acres. So it depends on the requirements in the area.
I guess the trick here is to look out for and choose the right plots. Now, how do you go about making sure that what you're buying into is a good investment?
Well, I think the one thing our clients always understand when they come to see us is you mentioned the term land banking, and we're not really land banking. We talk about strategic land. There's a big difference between the two. Land banking is buy a piece of land and hope for economic growth. Strategic land is very specifically targeted, very, very detailed research. So you're looking at a much smaller amount of land. To put that in perspective, last year we looked at something like 500 sites and we bought one. So that gives you some idea of the research that goes in. You know, it's got to be in the right area, it's got to be in an area where there's a shortage.
Give us an example. So that land you mentioned was bought for what purpose? And what do you do as a company to sort of help make sure that that piece of land becomes more profitable?
Well, we have a very close relationship with one of the leading planning consultants in the UK, who are specialist town planners and work with the government. So we will look at population trends for the next 10, 15 years. We will look at housing requirements. We will look at the local plan of the area. For example, our current site, in that area, there's a requirement for something like 45,000 homes in the next 10, 15 years, and there's only land for about 3,500 homes. So that gives you an idea that the land has a much, much better chance in that area of getting planning. It obviously has to conform to all the government's regulations because they won't let you build on anything.
What's the rate of return on this kind of investment? How does it compare to the other tools out there?
Well, the rate of return, the unique thing about land in the UK is land without planning is at one level, and with planning it immediately rockets. So the returns are quite substantial. The only figures we ever quote to people are from the government's official valuation, its own valuation agency. Today, for example, if one of our sites got planning, it would show something like 328% return. Another site would show something like 338. We have one other one which is quite unique, but over 700%.
Okay. Then a question would be, you said you buy land and then once it's being developed, that's when prices really go up. But what if we realize we bought the land and we realize we don't have the permit or the approval from the government to develop the land? What happens to the investors' money? Excuse me.
If a site didn't get planning permission, we actually operate a policy called Fast Track, which allows our owners to move their ownership from one site to another. So in the event that we had got something slightly wrong, we do have the facility to move somebody. If you've got $10,000 worth of land here, we'll give you $10,000 worth of land there. So that's a safety measure we put in place.
No admin charges?
No.
And what if, let's say, I've put in some money and a few years down the road, I think I need the money back. Is that possible? Can I take it out?
Yeah, you get the freehold title to the land. So you can sell it any time you wish if you want to privately. But we do operate a series of warranties with our product. So you can come back to us any time in the first 5 years and we'll help you resell any land you've got. And we don't sell less than you paid. After 5 years, there's another option you can take which basically allows you a 5-year opt-out. So after 5 years you can review your investment, and if you're not happy you can get back at least what you put in.
What is then the resale market like? After all, the company would have ample plots of sell.
The resale market is quite healthy. So far we've only had a handful of people, and it's been their circumstance rather than ours. They needed the money. So we've had a handful, and every one of them has shown a small profit. Obviously because they haven't had it that long, but a small profit. But yeah, it's good.
And right now, I mean, your company's focusing on land in the UK. Does it plans to look elsewhere in the world? I guess this is based on what's happening in the current economic situation?
Yeah, it's important to understand that we're land specialists.
Right.
And we're not UK land specialists.
Right.
The best returns on land happen to be in the UK at the moment. We have looked at land elsewhere, but one of the things that's particularly important, especially we find for our Asian investors, is the legal structure. It must have good, transparent legal structure behind it. And that's one thing that UK land does offer through its land registry.
And how does this land investment scheme appeal more to Singaporeans than other Asian countries?
I think Singaporeans understand the issue of strategic land very, very well. If you look at Singapore's history, how did Singapore develop? You know, Raffles came and found a deep water port that was protected at the bottom of the Malay Peninsula. It was a strategic piece of land. So I think people relate to that. Plus, Singaporeans are natural investors, and they like to invest in property. We've seen that particularly in Australia and the UK. So they have a history of investing, but also investing in real estate or land. So I think they understand the strategic land very well.
Right. And on average, how long should people be willing to sort of have their money parked in that?
Oh, this is not going to happen overnight.
Right.
And that's one thing we're very keen to stress. Please don't think we're magicians and it'll work next week. This is going to take something like 7 to 10 years. Right. If it comes quicker than that, great. And we work absolutely to full output to try and get it quicker than that. But if it was 7 to 10 years, given the returns, our investors are still happy.
Okay, having said all that, very quick question. How much money, minimum, I need to invest in something like this?
At the moment, our smallest plot is about $15,000, Singapore dollars.
Right.
So you can buy a piece of land in London at the moment, just a couple of miles from Heathrow Airport, for as little as $15,000.
Okay.
Right.
Well, that's another interesting investment option available.
Okay.
Yeah, we love the property market here. I think it's just one of the exciting things to look out to.
Okay.
Well, thanks very much, Andy, for joining us this morning.
Thank
That
you.
was John Andrew Norton, Group Operations Director at Profitable Plots Singapore, speaking with us about the prospects of land banking in the UK.
That's right, very interesting.